Vince August, July 15th, 2024, take two. I don't know what the hell happened to the last one. Everyone, if you're joining me live, thank you. If you're watching this on replay, thank you as well. Doesn't really matter if you're watching live or not. Just as long as you're watching, like, subscribe, follow, do all of that stuff. Wanted to get in on the events and where we are following the attempted assassination of Donald Trump and very unfortunate death of one of the people that were in attendance, a father, 50-year-old, who was protecting his daughters and went to a Trump rally and got shot for it. Let me start off immediately by saying, if you cheered on those events, if you found yourself hoping that something bad happened to Donald Trump, if you're upset that the shooter missed Donald Trump in any way, shape, or form, if you saw that as an opportunity to rid the world of Donald Trump, do me a favor. I am not the person you need to watch, follow, listen to, or whatever. And you probably need serious help if that's where you are as a person, because what you cheered on or what you're cheering on or what you're hoping for is fascism. If you cheer on the assassination of a political party's lead candidate that, 65, 70 million people voted for the last election, that is apparently ahead in all of the polls in this election, and is looking at another 70 million votes this time around. If you want to see that person assassinated and killed, don't call yourself a Democrat. Don't call yourself an independent. Don't call yourself a Republican. Just call yourself what you are. You're fascism. You want the elimination of candidates from elections. That's what that is. Plain and simple. No other way to say it. And you probably kind of are a little disturbed. I'm going to pass judgment on you. Yes, I will. I don't care. Very simple. Let me get that out of the way first and foremost. Now, with regards to, what happened, I'm not going to get into the expert stuff with the gun, the shooting. For those of you who know, I am a gun owner. I do own a 5.56 model rifle. I have 5 rifles, multiple handguns. I go shooting all the time. I'm not going to get into that area of expertise. There's enough of that going on. With regards to, Secret Service and all of that stuff, a lot of that still has to unfold. We'll leave that to the experts. I'm not here to try to be first. I'm here to try to be accurate. That's the way I approach things. My bigger problem, and I have notes that I want to make sure I get to, is just the prospect of what that could have led to, and how fortunate we are that this very disturbed individual or manipulated individual, I guess we'll find out. I don't know, because we don't have a motive yet, what it could have led to. And let's all be thankful as members of a civilized society that it didn't happen. Because, a lot of people, I have, whether it's fortunate or unfortunate, to have parents that grew up during a war, World War II. My father was born 1933, so that means when, the height of the war, 41 to 45, he was 8 years old, all the way to 12 years old. My mom was 2 years younger, so 6 to 10. You remember that. You remember when there's a world war and you're German occupied. A lot of us don't know that. And the other problem with people in the United States is the vision of war, the vision of a lot of what we know to be civil war is television. So we see the bombings on TV, which are, selectively chosen by media. The other thing that we know is Hollywood's version of war. And Hollywood's version of war never has civilians in the streets. It's usually soldiers shooting at soldiers. And people don't see what real civil unrest looks like, what it looks like when you have situations of civil war, whether it's been in the continent of Africa, whether it's been in different parts of Europe. I remember I grew up, there was a country called Yugoslavia. It's now separated into several, smaller countries, how that came about. If you're not familiar with that and you're not a student of history and don't know that, you're happy that this bullet missed, because who knows what could have happened? Who knows what the reaction would have been by other people with guns had this person connected. And by the way, he didn't miss the shot. Donald Trump moved at the last second. Okay. He was aiming for apparently Donald Trump's ear, and Donald Trump moves his head. He didn't miss. The target moved. So he was on target. Again, I don't want to get into all the specifics of the shot and everything else. Let's get to other things. All right. The rhetoric, the ad hominem attacks, and all of that stuff. Let's get into the rhetoric. You can't start a conversation about dialing back rhetoric without people stepping forward and doing a mea culpa. And this doesn't go just for politics. This goes for any type of relationship. Look, I'm an attorney. I do divorce law. Anytime you try to get two people, whether it's to send them to therapy to reconcile or work things out, or you've just got to get through a divorce, until there's a reckoning for your responsibility for your actions, you're not going anywhere. To just say, okay, starting from now on, we're going to change, we're going to be better, that's not going to do it. It's simply not going to do it, because then what you're basically doing is wiping your conscience clean, wiping your own slate clean to justify everything you've said and done in the past, and said, okay, well, from now on, I'm not going to be a dick. No, that's not going to change you, because then what you've done is you've basically forgiven and absolved yourself for all of your language and all of your rhetoric, which is convenient. And then saying, well, from this point on, well, all right, fine. Now I'm going to be nice. No, that's not the way it works. And there's another thing here that's happening that I'm seeing with a lot of politicians. And I don't want to signal anybody out. And you can look. And by the way, this goes for Republicans too. It's not just for Democrats. Chris Christie hates Donald Trump. What's the one's daughter that's from Wyoming that went on that, that January 6th committee? Liz Cheney can't stand Donald Trump. The other guy who was crying constantly in Congress, who got voted out, who was on a January 6th committee that went up. There's a lot of people out there that are Republicans that don't like Donald Trump, secretly or out loud. Bush, I'm sure, can't stand Trump. Jeb, George, that whole family, I'm sure they hate Trump. So this is not just signaling out Democrats, but we know the Democrats that have called or equated Trump to Hitler. And I'm going to get on the Hitler thing in a second. Hitler, threat to our democracy. If he went, look, we saw Robert De Niro. If this guy wins, the country, as it is over. Those types of things, when you equate somebody to that type of madman, people think to themselves, wow, if I had the chance to take out Hitler in 1933, 35, 37, 39, if I had the chance, would I have done it? That's what that type of rhetoric does. Because what it does is it turns a 20-year-old person that's disturbed, obviously, into a potential hero. Now, that's assuming that this person's working alone. Again, we don't know the motive. But that's what you're doing. You're setting up someone like that to become a hero. So when you use that kind of rhetoric, threat to democracy, Hitler, fascist, all of the things that these people have said about him, when you say that, don't absolve yourself from sins. You have to do a mea culpa, in my opinion. And I'm talking about media people. I'm talking about politicians. I'm talking about everybody. You owe it to yourself to say, hey, look, you know what? One, be honest with the public and say, I say those things to be hyperbolic. I do those ad hominem attacks to be hyperbolic and stir people's emotions. But now that I see the result of that, I'm wrong. That's wrong. I'm never doing that again. I'm never going to compare somebody like that to a person that is responsible for the extermination of 7 million people and a war that killed, 9 million Russians on the front. How many countless dead Germans? How many people, American soldiers that were lost, Italian soldiers, English soldiers that you wound up leading to the dropping of 2 atomic bombs on Japan because of how the war started, the alliances that formed and everything else. If you're going to make that kind of comparison, at least now realize You know what? It's ignorant. It's completely ignorant, and it downplays what Jews went through during the Holocaust. It completely downplays and diminishes it by comparing someone who did that to a person I don't like for whatever reason. I don't know what it is. The grab him by the pussy thing, the affair with Stormy Daniels, whatever language you think that he said that was so bad that somehow that rises to a level of equating to literally one of the worst figures in the history of the world, Adolf Hitler. If you use that kind of language and you're not apologizing for it today and saying, look, out of line, never going to happen again. Look, I'm going to step forward and say, we need to stop that. I'm responsible for it. Turning around and saying, I'm praying for the family of Donald Trump. Look, nobody wants to see that. That was wrong. Thoughts and prayers to the Trump family. At least have the courage of your convictions. If you honestly believe this man to be all of the things that you've said he is, and you think he's that evil, you think he's that much of an existential threat, and it's just not hyperbolic shit that you're spewing, at least have the courage of that conviction and not wish him well. Because to see people in the media, to see people that are politicians that I know can't stand this man put out a tweet and say, look, I'm happy he's safe. I'm happy he's alive. Nobody wants to see that. I'm sorry. I find you to be the worst type of hypocrite there is. Because in my opinion, you are responsible for the people that do these things. You have blood on your hands. You do. And from a legal standpoint, it's going to be interesting to see what happens to this kid's parents based upon that holding in Michigan, putting on my lawyer hat. Remember those two parents in Michigan where the kid went to school and he had all kinds of threats and stuff all over the place. And then he started shooting up the school and the two parents got convicted criminally for the responsibility of what the kid did. All of a sudden that door is open. That Pandora's box is open. You have two parents here that are therapists that bought the gun in 2013. Gun's been in the house now for 11 years since the kid was 9 years old. Somebody taught this kid how to shoot. You started making bomb, equipment in the house. Apparently they had explosives or the beginning of explosives. So I wonder if we're going to hold those parents accountable. Interesting to see. But yeah, you have to have accountability in the media. Let's see, other thing. Oh, here's the other thing that I saw that was interesting too. I saw a lot, and this one I have to call out. So Jake Tapper on CNN on Sunday comes out and says, Tim Scott and who was the other person? It may have even been J.D. Vance. Came out and put out a tweet. Two Republicans put out a tweet saying, look, all of your hyperbolic stuff, the media, politicians, all of this stuff that you were saying about this guy, that led to this type of shooting. And they immediately were like, whoa. We don't know what happened here. That's way too soon. We're supposed to dial it down, and you guys are dialing it up. That's wrong. You know what? You shouldn't be doing that. Wow. Again, I'm calling out the hypocrisy because in that situation of an assassination attempt where literally you were calling somebody, equating them to Hitler, Nazism, fascism, threat to the country, our country's he's never going to leave the White House. Bill Maher, if he wins this time, he'll never leave the White House. Election denier, this, that, all of this stuff, okay? And then you say, hey, everybody, let's pump the brakes. You guys didn't pump the brakes on the Jussie Smollett story, okay? You didn't. Kamala Harris, after the Jussie Smollett story, was like, this is a lynching. This is a lynch. Everybody, that, which was bullshit. And a lot of people were like, I don't know, this looks like bullshit. A lot of people thought it was bullshit out of the gate. You jumped all over that story. This, which we saw, we witnessed, we actually witnessed, we heard the shots. Sniper killed the guy. It was we nearly saw an execution on live television. This, you're telling, whoa, everybody pump the brakes. And Jussie Smollett, you didn't guys pump the brakes. You slammed on the gas. So the hypocrisy in the media yesterday was also just it's such bullshit. And this is why I can't stand mainstream media. And by the way, right now I'm doing this. It's what time is it? 8:25. People are like, aren't you going to watch the RNC thing? No, I'm not watching that. I don't watch political pep rallies for donor class and media to sit there and have this pep rally and say how we're going to make the country great. This, listen, they're elected officials. Your job is to represent my district and do what the people of your district want to do. I don't need to watch the RNC. Okay. I'm going to watch the debates. I'm going to see what these people are running on, see what their platform's on. All of this, rah-rah shit, I'm not for that. So again, everybody with their language and all of their, pump the brakes, this, I can't believe. Oh, stop with the pearl clutching, Jake Tapper. That guy's so full of shit. And here's another one. Chris Cuomo said he did this, he goes on this network, Value Entertainment, with this guy, Patrick Bet-David. And he sat there and debated this guy, Dave Smith, this comedian. And he said, I'm never going to apologize. I'm not going to apologize for anything I said during a pandemic about COVID. And they said, why won't you apologize? He said, because as soon as you apologize, they own you. I don't know who the hell they is. I don't know what that is. Listen, I say this on every podcast I do. If I'm wrong, put it in the comments. If anything I'm saying, listen, I have a lot of subjective stuff I say out here. A lot of this stuff is based on my personal perspective. If I am quoting a fact, I will always tell you what my sources are. Most of this stuff is anecdotal based upon my experience of what I'm seeing, what I'm witnessing, okay? But at the same time, I will apologize if I'm wrong. I don't find apologies to be a weakness. I happen to think giving an apology is a strength. And I'll tell you right now, I've said it once. I said it at a comedy club a couple of weeks ago. You have to be a little bit, if not a lot, of a narcissist to run for president and think you could lead a country. They're all like that. All of them. There's got to be narcissism in you. And I've said, I don't like Donald Trump's rhetoric. I don't like his language. When he was attacking Chris Christie in Miami a couple weeks ago, unnecessary, childish shit. He can be a big asshole. Huge asshole. Hey, listen, maybe a bullet whizzing by his ear and taking his life is going to be his wake-up call. We'll find out. But at the same time, there's a difference between being an asshole, calling somebody an asshole for their language, and tweeting at people and going to battle with people on Twitter, celebrities, this and that. When you're in the president of the United States, calling Chris Christie a fat pig, calling Nikki Haley ugly, and all of the other stuff. There's a difference between saying, wow, what an asshole, and I think he's Hitler, which I would never say. Okay, so big difference. But here's the thing. Chris Cuomo said it. They're not apologizing. And you know what? Nobody apologizes. George Bush has yet to apologize for weapons of mass destruction. That entire cabinet has yet to Liz Cheney has not apologized for the sins of her father, Dick Cheney, who's the guy who basically started monarchies in this country 20 years ago. Neocons like that don't apologize. Obama never apologized for bombing the shit out of Syria, okay? Hillary Clinton has never apologized for Benghazi, claiming she's done nothing wrong, okay? Trump never apologizes. Biden, with all of the shit he's involved with his kid, never apologized. So this thing of, look, we're going to move on. We're going to dial it down. To me, should start with an apology. It should start with an apology. Otherwise, I don't think it's sincere. I really don't. It's the OJ defense. Never admit guilt, never admit you're wrong, and just keep plowing forward and then say, oh, listen, you know what? Fine. Starting now, I'm going to be nice. Get out of here with that bullshit. So here's the other thing I want to hit on. With regards to, let's talk about being first rather than being right. And I saw this all over social media too. There was an immediate reaction when people wanted to find out who the shooter was. And what did people start posting? Oh, look, he's a Republican. Look, he's an NRA member. And I know what the implication there is. He's not one of ours. He's one of yours. You know what? At what point are we collectively responsible for at what point are we our brother's keeper? At what point are we collectively responsible for the back and forth sides that we're on, the division that we're on, that you don't say, he's one of yours. And then the other side, oh, by the way, he donated to Democrats. So, he's not one of ours. He's one of yours. You know what? He's one of all of ours. He's the product of the environment that has been created by the division that all of you create when you yell at each other and call each other names and attack each other for being in one tribe versus another tribe versus another tribe. Because you people don't know how to coexist, you're all responsible for this type of lunacy. So this notion, that right away people want to, one of yours, not one of ours. We're good. We don't bear any responsibility for that. Listen, if you're an American citizen, you all bear responsibility for the actions that happen in this country. Otherwise, then we're just a bunch of individuals. That's not unite. That's not unite. And I'm going to get to a whole thing of whether or not we can change this trajectory. I also saw people posting it was fake. Is that people literally putting this whole thing was staged? There were people posting today that was staged, that it's fake. There's a 50-year-old father that's dead. That's fake, huh? How sick and disturbed are you as a human being that you're posting that's fake? Just again, to be first and not be accurate? Man, got some pretty sick people out there. Let's see. I got some people. Only 1 point. Hitler's people killed 11 million, 6 million Jews, 5 million people who were mentally and physically handicapped. Gypsies got. Yeah, Deb, listen, I don't like the false equivalency. And I'm commenting to a comment in a post. Deb Suda commented 8:30 p.m. I just don't like false equivalencies to Adolf Hitler. I don't like him at all. I don't think they should be done, because it shows how ignorant people are with regards to history, with regards to what happened. Maybe people need to go to Auschwitz to understand it. It's interesting. So I had cousins in from Italy about a month ago, and they were hanging out. They were spending time with my mom, and I said to them, "Let me take you somewhere. Where do you want to go?" I was shocked at what they said to me. They said, "We want to go to Ground Zero. We want to go to Freedom Tower." I said, "You want to see the museum?" "Yeah." And I said, "Okay, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do." And they said, "Well, we want to see it to put history in perspective." And I said, "Okay, fine. Listen, you're here. You spent time with my mom. Least I could do." And when we were going there, they had said, "When was the first time you came here since 9/11? And I told them, I said, "I haven't gone back. This is actually my first trip to Ground Zero since 9/11. And they were shocked. And they said, "Why?" I said, "Because I know two people that died that day. And to me, it's burial ground. And I don't like that there's a new building there that represents, financial wealth and everything else. To me, it should have been left the way it was. I didn't think we needed the Freedom Tower, whatever. My opinion. This is all my opinion. I never felt comfortable going back to visit that place because I saw it smoldering, across the river all of those months, full year. Then the reconstruction, everything else. Never went back. That was my first trip back. After I went back, everything hits you. It hit me again. It was difficult seeing the names, seeing the pictures of friends that are gone. But that day was always in perspective for me. And I think, we forget history, especially the one that we've maybe never learned to truly understand it. Like right now, we're playing fast and loose in Europe with a war that can lead to nuclear annihilation, even one nuclear bomb. And it's like, I don't think people understand what happened in World War II. So that's the thing, Deb, that bothers me. It's when people make false comparisons. But let me get back to the whole thing about being first. Yeah, so right away, the nonsense, it was fake, it was this, it was that. Here's the other thing I saw that somebody posted. And again, this is everybody, again, shit that I saw. Okay. You probably saw something different, whatever. These are things I saw. Okay. So take it from where it's coming from. I saw someone actually post how Biden called Trump and someone said, if this was the other way around, I guarantee you Trump wouldn't have called Biden. Now, here's another scenario that people love to do. So what happens is something happens, and rather than deal with the thing that happened, someone creates an alternate universe scenario and then starts doing a false comparison based on events that didn't happen that they conjure up in their head to incite people. So the guy gets shot at, Biden makes the phone call, they have an exchange. Rather than say, wow, look, after what we saw at the debate, Biden looked at him and called him a sucker and loser about soldiers and this and that. They had an ugly exchange. And you know what? He was able to call him today and wish him well. Wow. Lesson learned. Lesson learned. No, instead of that, this fucking idiot is the only way to describe this person, actually posts on one of the threads, if this happened to Biden, Trump would have never done this. You literally creating a scenario that didn't exist to justify their emotions and their feelings about the one guy as opposed to the other, rather than just deal with the reality. Do you understand how literally screwed up you have to be to create an alternate reality just to make yourself feel better about something that should have been a feel-good moment? It's mind-numbing how divided some people are, how just entrenched they are in their anger. It's pretty crazy, I got to tell you. What was the other thing? The security failings. Listen, with regards to the security failings, I'm not going to get into the specifics of what I think happened or didn't happen. Here's the question I have for all of you, and I would love to see the answers on this. How many of you trust between Mayorkas, who said for the last 3 years, 20, 21, 22, 23, the border is secure. There is no problem with the border. Everyone's doing a great job at the border. Senator, you are wrong. The border is secure. And then we need to secure the border. Like 2 months ago. Okay. How many of you trust Mayorkas? How many of you trust this woman that's in charge of the Secret Service, who actually came out and said, the buck stops with me? Then I think it was Lester Holt said, are you going to resign? Oh, no, I'm not resigning. How many of you trust the FBI with all of the investigations and all of the mishaps and documents and this and that, how many of you people trust that this investigation, the investigation of the CDC, the NIH, how many of you honestly trust that the investigation will go well? And before you answer that question, think about this. Here's something that blows my mind. Whenever there's a CDC hearing and they're questioning Fauci or an NIH hearing, they want to get to the bottom of COVID, immediately, if the Republicans are attacking Fauci or the person that's there talking, the Democrats immediately take the other side. If the Republicans are defending the person that's there testifying, the Democrats take what has there been? One partisan thing, I think that happened all year with Boeing. I think other than the Boeing thing, I don't think there's been one situation where Democrats and Republicans have actually gone into a hearing and said, hey, I want to get to the bottom of this. You know what? Fuck sides. I want to get to the bottom of this. We need to know what happened that day, because you know what? I'm a politician. And if you guys are giving people open shots at 100 yards, hey, all bets are off, man. Now I want to get to the bottom of this, because now 535 people in Washington should be scared right now. Should be scared right now, unless there was something else that happened, we don't know about. Okay. So at what point do we start to trust that these investigations are going to go up? Because the immediate reaction is, well, hold on a second. What are they asking question? Oh, they're going after the Secret Service person? Okay, time for us to defend them. They're bad. We're good guys. Oh, you're attacking? We're defending. What are we doing today? Oh, we're attacking. You're defending? Okay. So I don't know if I have faith that any investigation is going to be legitimate at this point. For those reasons, I don't understand this notion that the FBI, here's another thing, and I'm going to tell you this from my perspective, and I see there's another comment. I'm going to get to the comments in the section. Here's another thing from my perspective. Why is it that when a new person is elected, you literally need a cleaning house of every department head? So basically every job is politically motivated. Every job has a political string attached to it. And the interesting thing is, I can tell you right now, that didn't happen with me as a judge. 4 Republicans, 1 Democrat appointed me. No, I'm sorry. 3 Republicans, 2 Democrats appointed me. 4 Democrats, 1 Republican reappointed me. 5-0 votes both times. So if you do the job well, by the way, I'm undeclared. So I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not an independent. I'm undeclared. My voter's registration says undeclared. So if you are doing the job well, none of these job positions, head of the FBI, head of this, head of that, should ever be politically attached to a party. I don't understand that for the life of me. How we got to clean house. We got to get everybody out. Why? Well, because they're all Democrats. Why? Because they're all Republicans. We got to get rid of. We have to put our people in. When do we get to a point where there isn't our people and there are just good people? Because until there were just good people, everything is biased. How do you trust anything that happens? It's all biased as far as I'm concerned. Deb, getting back to Deb Suited, by the way, between Stephanie, Robin, Karen, Deb, thank you all for checking in live. This is awesome. Thank you so much. You keep this thing rolling. 8:39 p.m. Deb, when government entities say we're here to help, I trust not at all. Yeah, who's the politician that said it? I think Ronald Reagan. The most scary words anyone can say, we're here to help, that the government can say. Yeah, Deb, I'm with you. Let's see. All right, let's get to the what now part, because that's ultimately where this leads to. What now? Look, I am a God-fearing person. I'm very spiritual. I was raised Roman Catholic. I broke away from the Roman Catholic Church. I don't go to church. However, I probably pray more as an adult than I ever did when I was a child, adolescent, young adult going to church. I'm far more religious now than I've ever been in my life. Maybe the word is spiritual, not religious. Pray daily, usually multiple times a day. Don't go into organized organizations that have churches. I don't care what the denomination is. My faith is based on my beliefs. Listen, I take a little bit from Buddhism, a little bit from Christianity, a little bit from here, a little bit from there. And, I have my state of prayer, and that's where I am as a person. I think where we are now as a society, because we are so detached from any type of spirituality, any type of group think that's not rooted in some sort of tribalism. I think because of social media specifically, and the me, that everyone's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, is their own personal TV show. And I tend to be a positive person because of my spirituality. I don't think we're ever going to get past our division. I don't. Because the one thing I will say, I was a kid when Ronald Reagan got shot. There was a collective gasp in the nation. 9/11, there was unity immediately. There was a collective, we have to come together. I've seen it with tragedies, whether it's tsunamis, what happened in New Orleans with Katrina. There's immediate gasp. There was no immediate gasp on Saturday. There was no moment of, we were potentially a millimeter away from civil war. We were potentially a millimeter away from, talk about a threat to democracy. Taking out a candidate that's the lead candidate potentially for the presidency. There wasn't that gasp. There was joke memes. There was people immediately applauding it. There were people hoping for the worst. There were people immediately attacking other sides. He's yours, he's yours, he's yours, he's this, he's that. Shooter was your responsibility. Guns, this, that. Immediately people trenched themselves in and went on attack mode. I will say this. The 2 people that didn't do it were Biden and Trump. The 2 people that paused for a second that didn't do it were the guy that the Democrats are trying to replace, the elites, not the Democrats, excuse me. I stand corrected. that the elites in Hollywoods are trying, and the people in Hollywood are trying to replace as their candidate, even though he won the primary. And the people, and the guy that was nearly shot that everyone thinks is Hitler and everything else, those two people immediately said, we got to knock this shit off. And nobody listened. So I don't know that we're ever going to get closer. I don't think so. I think social media has put us in such a place where I don't know that we can ever bridge this gap. I don't think we're ever going to get past this. And I think, again, I think people really like to revel and just sit and enjoy their anger. I think it's such an easy emotion. It's such a lazy emotion. I think love and compassion requires so much work. And you know what? People don't want to work. Anger is easy. Lashing out at people is easy. Hurting people is easy. Healing people is hard. And I think right now we're just lazy as a society. I think we're lazy as a world, as a humanity. I think we're just lazy. So I don't know that we're ever going to get past that. And it comes with individual responsibility. And I don't see individual responsibility happening. I'm going to get to, why I think that. One of the things that I saw and some of the stuff that I copied from the internet. So CNN, this is their cover. Can it show? Okay. So you see what I'm looking at? I'm looking at an actual picture. I'm not making this up. Secret Service rushes Trump off stage after he falls at rally. That was the initial reporting. And that was like an hour into it. So that was CNN saying. Then there's this David Aronovich tweeted on July 1st, 2024, 47,000 views. If I was Biden, I'd hurry up and have Trump murdered on the basis that he is a threat to American security. Hashtag SCOTUS. David Aronovich has then said, it's a joke. It's a joke. And we're going to get to debates and jokes and things like that. CNN Politics. We're done talking about the debate. It's time to put Trump in the bullseye. That was a quote that Biden said. We can't go another day without explaining what he's doing, and we have to go after him. This other person on Twitter, there's got to be at least one white guy willing to throw his life away to commit the act that will save this country from the impending fascist takeover. Make the fucking news, white boy. This other person, we were 2 inches away from democracy, but he missed. I mean, this is where we are. That's where we are. Again, Vin, anecdotal. And I don't know, David Aronovich has like almost 1 million followers. Anecdotal? Or come on. And people say, Vin, it's anecdotal. Well, you know what? They were calling the Biden videos cheap fakes too. Is it really anecdotal? Is that really anecdotal, or is that what we see on Twitter all the time? Now, I say it all the time. Twitter's not real world. It's 20% lunatics on the left, 20% lunatics on the right, but the lunatics make the most noise. Empty caves make the most noise. So in terms of that, I just don't know that we're getting any closer. The other thing, when people say, oh, dude, I'm just making jokes. It's just jokes. Look, I know, again, Twitter, Instagram Reels, TikTok has given everybody a platform to think that they're an entertainer, to think that this is a news show, like me, what I'm doing right now. Everyone has that platform. What I suggest is, if you're going to be an entertainer, if you're going to be a media person, if you're going to fiend being a journalist or act like one like I am now, at least take responsibility for your words and actions. Take responsibility for it. I've said it right here. I think Trump's rhetoric in the past, unnecessary, irresponsible, stupid, asshole kind of language. Never called him Hitler. Won't even think of calling him Hitler. Won't even think about calling him a Hitler. Not even close. Threat to democracy? Sorry. This is not a democracy anymore. This is a country run by corporations. This is a country run by big pharma, by the military-industrial complex. This is a country run by neocons. So this threat to democracy thing, I've said it 1,000 times. I'm going to say it again. Stop with that. Okay? So if this machine is so fragile that the guy who was in charge of it for 4 years that wound up leaving the White House and then there was a transition of power, okay, is such a danger to it 4 years later, then maybe the machine is broke. How about that? How about that? I just don't know that, people are willing to take on their responsibility and be responsible for their words and actions. And if you're going to put something on the internet, I think you're responsible for your words and actions. At least own them. At least own them. Let's see. 40 minutes in. Let's do some comments that we're getting. James Seegers, a guy who served. Thank you for checking in, James. I'm with you on the cabinet positions, especially needed to be filled by both parties, regardless which party of the president belongs to. It just makes sense to have the best person for the job and the job regardless of the political affiliation. I'm going to tell you this, James. I'm going to take it one step further. It's not even a question of whether or not the person in charge should pick from both sides. I think if you're going to have what we call a representative government. Okay, so right now, what do we have in our Senate? It's 50-50 split with Kamala Harris having a tie-break vote. Okay, imagine you have a family. You have 4 kids. Okay, and each night you ask the kids, what do you want for dinner? And 2 kids always do the opposite of what the other 2 kids do. Imagine being a parent and always siding with one set of those kids. Because you know what? I'm in line with these kids. What are you doing? You're alienating the other kids. I just don't understand if you have a representative government where the House is nearly divided. What's the House seats off? 4 seats? The Senate is 50-50. The House is nearly 50-50. The run for presidency right now, margin of error, 3 points here, 4 points there. I don't understand why one side gets to pick everybody. Because I don't think, and people are going to say, Vin, the popular vote, Biden beat Trump by 15 million votes. But that's not what we have. We have a representative government. What I don't understand is why we got 50 Democrats, we got 50 Republicans in the Senate. You know what? When it comes to cabinet positions, you get one, you get one. You get one, you get one. Why not? That's a representative government. Well, the president can't do his job if he's not picking the people in charge. Is the president picking the people in charge? Or is the president picking the people in charge because of where the donors are coming from, where the money's flowing in from? I mean, listen, Joe Biden right now is finding out a first-class lesson in leftist elitism. That literally they have said to the person who won the primary, we're going to withhold super PAC money from you. Why? We don't think you're fit enough to run. You don't think I'm fit enough to run, but everybody voted for me in a primary. Yeah, that was then, this is now. And you know what? We don't think you're fit enough now after the debate. So you thought I was fit enough 2 months ago. You didn't say anything when you did the fundraiser for me, George Clooney. Now I'm not fit enough. Why didn't you say something to me then when you saw me at the thing? Why didn't you say it then? Why'd you wait until the debate? If you didn't think I was right then, you should have said something then. No, instead you waited for an event. So, again, donor class, man. It's all about donor class. So who's really making the picks and who's really in charge? So, yeah, I got questions about that. How'd you feel about Trump and his son's comments about Nancy Pelosi's husband? They were fucking terrible. They were horrendous. Listen, it's all bad. And for the person who's asking that question, I've just called Trump an asshole 3 times with regards to his rhetoric on this podcast. I don't know what more you need to hear from me to understand where I'm coming from a position of, I don't like any of it. And when it comes to all of this stuff, again, if there's no mea culpa, if there's not a moment, to me, Donald Trump needs to stand up this week and say, hey, listen, the name calling, the stuff that I do, you know what? I do it in a way to try to be funny. And I know it riles up my base. You know what? Nah, no more of that. I don't need to use crooked Joe Biden. I don't need to use crooked Hillary. I don't need to name call Marco Rubio or Chris Christie or no more of that. Policy, man. Policy. That's what I'm waiting to hear. Yeah, he needs to do it too. Absolutely. I'm not giving anybody a pass on this. Maxine Waters, Chuck Schumer, Gorsuch screaming and yelling about the Supreme Court justices. And then someone shows up. How about when Steve Scalise got shot? Come on, man. It goes for everybody. I'm not picking sides here. So I don't know where you're getting that from if you think I'm picking sides, but I think it was wrong. It's always wrong. Listen, no one should be attacking anybody. This shit shouldn't be happening in schools. It shouldn't be happening in malls. It shouldn't be happening in the streets, man. This shouldn't be happening anywhere, not just politicians. I'm not just riled up because Listen, the reason Saturday was like really a moment of what the hell are we doing here? It's because of what it could have meant politically for this country and being a live execution on TV of a political candidate leading up to a presidency. You're talking about the entire country. However, I'm not absolving when this shit happens at school, like when it happened in Uvalde, Texas, and the cops were just as irresponsible then as they were now. Listen, I'm not passing judgment on any cops or anything that happened because I don't have all the information. But clearly, the failures that happened in near Pennsylvania, Butler, Pennsylvania, were as bad as what happened in Uvalde, Texas. Same shit. Complete collapse of security. So, yeah, that's where I stand on that. Anybody else commenting? Let's see. Feel free to comment again. If you don't see this on the live and you see it on the repeat, let me know. Ask me questions. I'll be more than happy to chime in, let you people know what I think. Again, there needs to be a mea culpa, and I think everyone needs to sit back and look and say, hey, you know what? I take responsibility for the stuff I've said, the stuff I've posted, the stuff I've retweeted, the stuff I've put out. And you know what? Maybe people need to start scrubbing their own social media and looking back and saying, hey, you know what? Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have retweeted that. Maybe I shouldn't have reposted that. Maybe that's not right. Thanks for your feedback. No, thank you for the question because, yeah, I sometimes a lot is lost in this if we don't know each other. And yeah, see, again, I didn't hear the beginning part. No, we're cool, man. Everything's fine. YLAEN 24. Everything's cool, man. That's why we have these discussions. Yeah, I'm against all of it. I just don't know why. And you have to understand, I come from a lawyer mentality. And whenever I go into a courtroom and argue a case, and I've tried cases, I've reported decisions. I've been on trial myself. And when I was on trial before the Supreme Court, given that ultimatum, the attorney general that was there attacked me in such a personal way. And I remember afterwards that she met me and she talked to me, a year later, and she came over to shake my hand and she said, hey, good to see you again. I'm glad to see everything worked out for you. I didn't shake her hand. I said, if you're not going to start this with an apology, then we have nothing to talk about. And she goes, apology for what? I said, you attacked me personally. I said, you could have come after me for my career choices. You could have come after me for, what you thought was wrong according to the rules. But you attacked me personally. And you never knew me. You never met me. You had no idea who I was. So you know what? And you ultimately wound up looking stupid in a decision. And you wound up looking bad in the case. But yeah, when I go to court, I never attack the other lawyer's character, the other lawyer's personality, the other lawyer's looks, no. I'm there to argue a case. Now, if the lawyer does something unethical, I got to point that out. But even still, I would never attack somebody personally, especially on looks or things like that. Come on, man. That's insane. Unfortunately, all of this has become normalized. Yeah, I agree with you. But here's my point. It's not going to happen in a group capacity because one of the things I said earlier, and I don't know if you heard it, Biden and Trump both came out and said this needs to stop. But people didn't because no one's listening to anybody right now. And I think people are just so wrapped up in themselves. I think we've reached such a narcissistic, sociopathic place where the hubris of people, like everyone thinks they're always right. And I don't know if you've missed it. I'm wrong. I make mistakes. Listen, when I first saw what was happening, my immediate reaction was, I don't know if that's gunshot because of the reaction I saw in the audience. And I'm like, no one's ducking for cover and running. I'm like, what the hell was that? And when he came up and he has blood in his ear, everybody's like, he was shot. I'm like, whoa, everyone, calm down. Hold on a second. Maybe he got cut when he fell on the ground, whatever. Let's wait. Let's see. Then when I saw it, I said to myself, holy shit, it was a shooting. First thing I said to people, hey, I'm wrong. Those were gunshots. You know what? Wow. I totally missed on that. I reacted to the way the people react. Man, did I miss on that. Is it so bad to say I was wrong? I don't know why that's become a bad thing. I don't know. I guess people need to be in a relationship because if you're in a relationship, if you don't say you're wrong in a relationship every now and then, you're going to find yourself single real fast. So maybe that's the other thing people need to do. Um, hey, hopefully, again, listen, man, I don't have the answers. I just try to get people to think about things in a different way and come at this in a way of, let me take some responsibility for my own actions, my own words. Let me move away from the sides, man. This isn't sides. And again, I don't care if that kid that shot that gun is Republican, Democrat, whatever. You know what? He's not one of theirs. He's not one of yours. He's not one of ours. He's all of ours. He's a product of American society. And if you're an American citizen and you live in this country, we all have to be responsible, man. It takes a village. So this notion that, he's this, that, no, he belongs to all of ours. And the fact that a 20-year-old kid can get to that place, we got to sit back and look and say, what the fuck are we doing here? What are we doing here that we got a 20-year-old kid, whether it was radicalized or used or manipulated or whatever? We don't know what the story is yet. Still, it happened, and it shouldn't. And we should be responsible enough to all say, whoa, what are we doing here? What's going on? Guys, it needs to stop. Needs to stop. I'm a fan. Thanks. No, thank you. Listen, you're checking in with me. Thank you, man. I appreciate everyone who checks in. Do you think things will get better or worse if we end up with another independent president elected for the first time since Fillmore in 1850? Here's the problem, James. I think the problem in this country is the two-party system, because I think there's enough overlap in ideals and people in the public in general that the two-party system is doomed to failure. I don't know that a third party is necessarily going to be viable because of the money behind the two-party system. What I would like to see ultimately, what would be my dream list, if you said to me, Vin, what's your dream for an election? That it doesn't say Democrat or Republican in the voting booth, that you have to become familiar with the actual candidate and what they stand for. You have to know who you're voting for by name. You have to know who you're voting for by their policies. So you have to, no D, no R. You go in there, you have to have done research on who you're voting for and know what the person is without just, oh, I'm on the left, I'm on the right. Does an independent add to that? I don't know. And I'm going to tell you, and listen, complete candor, I voted for Ross Perot twice. I voted for Ralph Nader once. I couldn't bring myself to vote for Herbert Bush, the head of the CIA. I don't like voting for a presidential candidate a second time. I don't like incumbents. I don't like incumbents across the board. I believe in term limits. And if we're not going to put in term limits, I, as a voter, am going to be your term limit, and I'm going to vote against you just because I want change. I don't know if a third-party candidate like an RFK Jr. does that. And the reason I don't think RFK Jr. does that is because RFK Jr. is running as an independent because he was shunned from the Democrats, and he's doing it for his own campaign. It's not like he's starting an independent party. If RFK Jr. started an independent party and said, look, we're going to set up offices in all 50 states, and we're going to start finding candidates that are in line with our beliefs, and this is going to become a party, and we're going to have candidates in every state, that's different. Him running as an outsider, I don't think works. Now, again, you're talking to somebody who voted for Ross Perot twice and Ralph Nader once. I believe in having a protest vote when you don't like the candidates and you don't feel they have the nation's best interest. It's your vote. Do what you want with it. I think if you're going to have a third party, you need a third party, not a third party candidate. I hope that makes sense. Deb, yep, narcissism is rampant here and responsibility comes from to become normal. Yeah, I mean, listen, I hate to say that, a nation needs like another 9/11 because I never want to see anybody suffer or die, man. I lived through that once. Again, I started this with the story how I took my cousins there for the first time when they came to visit. I haven't been there. And, it shouldn't take a tragedy. It shouldn't take a tragedy. But unfortunately, oftentimes it does. It does, because I think people develop a complacency and they develop a comfort. The other thing is, too, I think we're so isolated here in the United States, and I think our mainstream media is so horrific with the singular stories that they present because they know we have a society that can only focus on one or two things at a time. So they pound one story over and over again, like it was Russian collusion for a long time. Now, right then, for what the last 2 weeks, it was Biden and his mental incapacity. Now it's going to be the assassination. So we stick on a story, we beat it to death, and we move on to the next story. Unfortunately, our media doesn't cover world events, and we think that we kind of live in a vacuum here where everything that happens in America is, and it doesn't. Like I think most people probably don't realize what happened in the elections in France, happened with the elections in England. Again, I speak Italian. I watch Italian news, so I get news from across the ocean. So I see a different perspective in a different part of the world and a different reporting on news. I wish people would do that more. One of the things I read Al Jazeera every day to get a different perspective. I tend to read more news than I watch. I don't watch mainstream media. I know that's ironic to people considering what show I was on last week and what show I do monthly, but I really don't. I like to read my news. I like to get information that way. What do you think about the VP pick announced today? Yeah, I mean, and hi, Roberta, I see you waving in. I mean, look, from what I know of J.D. Vance and his history, I know his story, what he came from, very blue collar. I know the mom had drug addiction issues. I know that he's a Marine enlistee, like right out of high school, if I'm not mistaken, served because of 9/11, was, again, not college and then Marines and became an officer, literally enlisted. Then went to Ohio State, law graduate. Again, in terms of his politics, it's going to be consistent with what Trump believes. The one thing I will say I like that Trump is doing, he's moved off the abortion thing, which I think, look, I don't know if you know me. I don't know if you've seen what I put up here. I've always been pro-choice. I am pro-Second Amendment rights because we're the biggest gun distributor in the world. I don't think you should tell the people in this country they can't have guns when we're starting wars all over the place. I happen to like smaller government. I'm a huge proponent of free speech and protecting free speech. And the speech you have to protect the most is one that's most offensive. Listen, as a judge, I married same-sex couples. I'm all for rights for the LGBTQ community. Leave them alone. However, when it comes to sports, I think we need a third category until we figure this thing out and we kind of catch up with science. So I'm all over the map. I don't fit into a box. And people say, well, what are you, libertarian? No, I'm not. I don't know what I am. Because again, I kind of pick and choose things. My parents were immigrants, so I'm pro-immigration, but I also like to have a secure border. So again, J.D. Vance is going to be in line with what Trump and his philosophies are. Do I agree with all of them? No, because I don't agree with everything the Republicans say. And I don't agree with everything the Democrats say. So I don't think there's ever going to be a candidate out there that I'm going to look and say, there's my guy, or there's my girl. I just don't see it. So again, is it a good pick for him? I guess if he shares enough of the same beliefs, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, he wasn't going to go for Burgum because Burgum is what? He's very pro-life. So that doesn't kind of hold consistent. I hate the notion of identity politics and say, well, you should have took Tim Scott to get the black vote. That's fucked up. I'm sorry. I find that to be so terrible. You pick the candidate because the candidate is going to help get across whatever it is to make this country better. So people are like, you should take Rubio. You're going to get the Spanish vote. Really? What? Come on, man. Where are we? Roberta shared on my page. This is the first time seeing you on live. Thank you. What you were saying is so spot on. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. I could be wrong, Roberta. I don't know. It's just my opinions. And again, all of that I put out there is based on my perspective. It's anecdotal. It's from what I know and what I experience in life and what I've seen. That's why I shared some of the stuff I read. Terrible world we live in right now. You know what, Joe? It's the world is not terrible. I think what it is, the world is a beautiful place. And I think there are more good people than bad, because if there wasn't, we would literally be in disarray. We would be in a state of anarchy. I think the problem is that the more we're connected to this thing And the less we're connected this way to each other as human beings, and I know I'm saying that to a screen, but I mean interpersonal connections. I think that's the problem. And listen, I'll give you an example of something that, is a good thing to do at dinner. Phone roulette. So you go out to dinner, everyone takes their phone, you put it in the middle of the table, unless you need a babysitter or something like that. You put the phone in the middle of the table, you have conversation. First person to pick up their phone to look at the internet, isn't that, picks up the check for the whole table. You go out, to the beach, whatever, phones off. Put them in a Ziploc bag, boom, seal them, put them away. You can shut off for the world from a little bit. So I think we need to move away from the safety and security of the screens and be into more interpersonal and get back to those connections. And I think, Joe, to be honest with you, outside of the United States and Western civilized nations, I think that still exists to a very high degree. So I think it's out there. I've been reading Project 2025 opinions. Yeah, I've been hearing about this now. I know that they're trying to attach people to it. I don't read that radical bullshit. I'll be honest. Listen, there are people out there that have podcasts that I listen to that really turn me off to certain things. And I kind of zone out. There's like Lincoln Project was another one. Then there was the one that the professor from North Carolina, Ibram X. Kennedy, I think, put out. I hate that radical shit when it comes from one side or the other. If it's far left, far right, I tend to stay away from it. I'm not reading anybody's manifestos. I'm not into that. Look, man, there were good ideas and there were bad ideas. Okay. Here's another one for the people on here that I was just talking to somebody, we were having a conversation about, where I stand politically. And I'm like, there's a part of me that I guess is part socialist or communist, because I think in a civilized nation, everybody should have access to health insurance. I think there should be Medicare for all, or you pay for your own health insurance. But I don't think in a country that has constant weapon money and constant money for wars that we shouldn't have money to help people heal. My opinion. Again, call me a crazy lunatic, communist, whatever. All right, listen, guys, it's been an hour. This is way too long. I'm talking for too much. Go out, enjoy your life. Go spend time with family. Go walk your dog. Go have fun. Interact with people. Say hello to people in the park. Wave. Say hi. Do what you got to do. Let's get past the rhetoric, man. Take accountability. Take responsibility. I'm going to try to be better every day, to be a better version of me. Hopefully you guys do that too. Thank you so much for checking in. Leave comments, and I'll try to follow up on everybody. Listen, when I am on Gutfeld and I do get messages, I get a lot of them. Give me time to catch up. It takes me a little while, but I try to get to everybody while I can, while I'm still in a range of friends and followers that is like manageable. If this gets out of control, then I'll do the best I can. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. Be safe.